So I just want to say that this is our first Hangout, or our first Hangout on air to talk about QuickBranch, which itself we've just launched very recently. But I think the easiest way to probably communicate with myself. So I'm Zach. I'm one of the co-founders of School Yourself, and then we also have Kenny, who's joining us today. I'm in Boston. Kenny's in New York.
I'm Kenny.
And so I think the easiest way to communicate with us as we do this is you'll notice one of the apps on the left side that we've enabled for this Hangout on air is the Q&A app. So using that, you should be able, it's a little icon that says Q&A on it, and using that you should be able to ask us questions throughout. We will try to address those questions as we go through QuickBranch, and then we'll also open up to questions again at the end. So Kenny, ready?
Yeah, I can start going through it.
Okay.
Let me turn it to me, and I'll start screen sharing.
Okay. I think we also hear a little bit about what's going on in the background there. So are you able to mute yourself? Okay. So I'll get started, and then we'll kind of come back in. We'll go back and forth between us. So just to say, let's see, Kenny is now sharing his screen. Great. So I just first want to say, well, we should first say where you should go to access QuickBranch. Kenny, are you able to show the URL there? Yeah, so it's author.schoolyourself.org. Okay, great. Hi, Robert. See that you're using the Q&A app, so that's great. Thanks. So author.schoolyourself.org is the URL. You'll see a page that looks like this, QuickBranch in the top left, and then the user manual, which we won't bother with that now, but that's an HTML file to kind of go through what we're going to be discussing today. So I just want to start off by just briefly saying, what is QuickBranch? And if I think all of you to some degree are probably familiar with the interactive nonlinear lessons that our team has designed, which are now used by 30,000 students on the edX platform. AlgebraX and GeometryX are our two courses there. We also offer them on schoolyourself.org. And when we actually founded the company, we wanted to make lessons that were more engaging than just straight up video lecture, but at the same time were scalable lessons that we could quickly create and edit and deliver to thousands of students around the world. And in order to do that, we actually had to create our own authoring tools in the process. And over time, we've gotten a number of requests from teachers, from now universities, from tutoring agencies, a lot of individuals and organizations who are interested in creating the lessons in the style, this kind of interactive, nonlinear style, adaptive, if you will, that we've been doing. So over the past couple of weeks, we have begun now to open a private beta, and the individuals joining us today are likely a part of that, to see what it is that people can create with QuickBranch. And so today we're going to go through and we're going to make a quick lesson. Kenny's going to be designing a lesson. I think we're calling it Gandalf. I don't know. We had a number of names in mind, but that one kind of stuck out. And if you're making lessons at the same time, come up with a unique name for your lesson today. So I think that gives you a little idea of how we got about designing QuickBranch and what is it used for. It's our tool to quickly create and improve and design these kinds of nonlinear lessons. So I think the easiest way to do it is just to dive right in. So Kenny's creating a new module called Gandalf, and this is what you see at the very beginning. You see an intro page, and you see a done page. So each of these boxes, each of these rectangles here represents a page. And when you're designing a lesson, you'll be creating a sequence of these pages. Each page will have a video, or it will have an image associated with it, some sort of asset, content asset, and then a question. So Kenny, why don't you go ahead and start on the intro page? And a good way to do this is actually Kenny, maybe you can talk about this, about outlining a module page by page.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, the general process is you kind of want to have an idea of what your lesson will look like beforehand, and we call that kind of an outlining step. Initially, when you create your lesson, there you see these two special nodes or pages. They're called intro and done. Intro kind of denotes where your lesson will begin. Done is a special page that denotes where it'll end.
Let me just interrupt for 1 second. We just have a question that is quite pertinent. Alexander McCoy is asking, should we try and make the lesson alongside you or just watch? If you want to make a lesson, please go for it. We're also recording this, so we're also going to be posting. If there's something that you missed and you want to go back, you'll be able to access this webinar on YouTube afterwards. So I say go for it. All right, Kenny.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to do some outlining right now. And one of the things that you'll be doing while you're outlining is kind of, because our lessons are nonlinear, you kind of want to think about your lesson as a graph or as a tree. And any given page may branch to one or more pages. So here I might say something like, I want my intro page, and these are just names I'm coming up. You can consider them keywords for the pages or just unique names for the page inside the lesson. And I can say here, I want the intro page to branch from intro to odd and intro to even. So if I save this, then you can see the graph on the left-hand side updates now, and it starts to look like this is why I basically typed out intro can branches to odd, intro branches to even. And I'm gonna do a little bit more outlining.
So I'll say something just on this. So this is at the very first step. Think about each module or each lesson. Generally, the way that we do it, and you're free to do something different, to do whatever you want with this. But each one will generally be a 10-minute experience, have one learning objective, but different paths that the student might take to get there. And so what Kenny's doing right now is he's just quickly fleshing out what he thinks the initial lesson should look like. It'll start off with one video and a question that might go to 2 different pages, each of which has its own question that will then converge back, odd and even come back to the page called Word, and then goes to done. So this is just an initial sketch of the lesson, if you will. And you'll notice that on page configuration over here, so you see the page name, which is, you can change to anything you want. The outline branching, which Kenny was just editing, controls which other pages or questions that page will branch to. And notes is just a text field, so you can enter notes to yourself as you're going along. Just kind of remind yourself what question it is you want to be asking on this page. Okay, so yeah, this is the intro page, right? But that field doesn't actually, the text that you enter there doesn't actually show up live for anybody. It's just there for yourself as notes to yourself as you're authoring. Okay, Kenny, are we ready? What's next? We got assets coming up?
Yeah, so I have to keep muting myself.
And just also keep in mind that the page done is a special page, and every lesson has to end with that page done. That's how the lesson player knows that the lesson actually is complete. The lesson will end. Otherwise, you'll have a lesson that goes on forever, and the student can't escape from it. Okay, Kenny, take it away.
Cool. So I'm going to upload some assets right now. What I mean by that is each of these pages is kind of associated with either a video file or image file. And these videos, generally, we in-house, like when we're doing this kind of process, we're creating them offline. So you may be importing content that already exists that you wish to kind of put into a more nonlinear structure. So for example, for this intro page, I might want to upload video file intro.mp4 with the file.
Okay, I just want to quickly say that we actually weren't able to see how you selected that file, but basically choose file, a little menu pops up like you're familiar with saving documents on any computer, and you can go through your hard drive and actually choose which file to upload. It could be any video or any image.
Yeah, I'm actually going to upload all of them at once right now, just for since you can't see the file dialog anyway, but you can see the file name here.
Yeah, so you got a file called odd.mp4. The name doesn't have to match the page name, but you've already done this for convenience.
Right. Generally, I'll be uploading files such a way that just it's easier to manage if they're the same file name, but that's not a restriction or requirement at all.
Okay, so you're uploading 4 videos for these 4 pages. So far, you've done nothing about how, you've outlined how the pages should branch to each other, but you haven't actually edited the questions yet. So I think that's what we're going to be getting to next. Okay, so now you have 4 videos on 4 pages.
Right. And you can see after a while, it takes some very short time, maybe like 3 or 4 seconds at most. After I've uploaded the video, we've actually processed it on our back end, and we host these files for you. And we grab the last screenshot of video, because presumably after a student watches a video, it at the end is where the question will appear. So this is the last screenshot that we grab automatically, and this is the image that you'll be authoring on.
Okay, so now we've covered what assets is. Assets is where you upload the video or the image file. Page configuration is where you control the branching between pages when you're outlining, and also some notes to yourself, and you can also change the names of the pages. And now we're diving into question configuration. This is where all the magic happens.
Right. So you can see here that there's a giant screenshot. You can think of this as this is your workspace and what you're going to be authoring on. And we have a repository of question types that you can select from here. This is more of a note to yourself, because your question is going to be appearing on the video. What you actually type here won't actually appear anywhere. But sometimes you may want to just remind yourself of what the question might be. So you can type it in. It's not actually required. But for the question type, that is where you kind of select what kind of interaction, what kind of question you want to ask. So let's start off with a multiple choice question.
Okay, so I'm just going to jump in and answer one more question from Robert while you're doing that. So Robert asks, do assets have to be loaded page by page, or is there a bank of assets? That's an interesting question. Right now, the way it's set up is page by page. For each page, you'll load an individual asset. We can think of other ideas maybe for the future about a way that makes that process a little easier. But for right now, it's page by page, but happy to hear your ideas on it. Okay, Kenny.
Sure. So right now I'm going to author a multiple choice question. And this question is asking which numbers you like more, with 2 options that you're presenting to your student or your user. This is a drag and drop kind of interface. So if I do this here, that can basically create a choice. And this is a clickable, you can think of it as a clickable choice that maps to some behavior or maps to an answer. One thing that you guys probably didn't see is if I hold down the shift button and do the drag, that it doesn't matter how big I make this rectangle, it'll automatically size to whatever the content is based on an educated guess of the white background. So you saw that when I let go of my mouse there, the box automatically sized to unnamed. And that's just a little convenient sort of shortcut that we include just to make it a little bit easier to create these sorts of choices.
Okay, so at this point you've created now 2 choices that you specified on this page, and I think now the next step is saying, well, suppose the student has just watched, just looking at this, presumably a 7-second video, and now they're at the end page. There are 2 choices. Now you have to say, well, if they choose the option on the left, even numbers, which page should they go to next? And if they choose odd numbers, also, which page should they go to?
Yeah, so when you're choosing kind of what page an answer choice goes to, there's 2 things you really have to specify. One is something that we call correctness. So that denotes if the student clicks on this choice, whether it's considered to be correct and allowing them to move on or not. So here I can say, yes, this is a correct answer. That means that if the student clicks on it, they're allowed to move on. You can also see that there's also no. Right
Kenny, I just want to say that actually the drop down is not appearing on the video stream.
Oh, that sucks.
All right. So right now,
well,
all I'm seeing is no. Keep trying. But one of the other, actually, why don't you select the yes option, and then there you go. Okay, so that's another option. Move to the next page. Why don't you say what that does?
Okay, so move to the next page means that this is more for analytics purposes. In the back end, we'll consider it, we'll allow the student to move on, but it's not technically considered a correct answer.
And we're gonna talk about analytics in just a bit. But what's out right now, what's available, and what you actually might be authoring with at the moment is the authoring tools. And in the not too distant future, we have some powerful analytics tools I'm going to be showing you a hint of later on that we use, that we're also going to be making available in the future. And the analytics certainly makes good use of the correctness of a question. It's very important to track, you get a sense of whether the lesson that you're creating is good or not. And you can also decide where to add new branches within the lesson depending on whether students are getting questions correct, and if not, what answers they're giving. So that's very important for the analytics, and also whether a student can move on. All right, branch target.
So branch target basically means where you want this answer choice to lead if the student clicks on it. So here, if they click on even numbers, I want them to go to even. This feedback type is just if it's positive, then there's a little message that says great job or good work. If there's no feedback, it's a seamless transition, and you don't see a message pop up. It just goes straight into the next page.
And I just want to say, again, we couldn't see the options that were popping up there. But under branch target, you'll see a list of potential pages that you can branch to, and those are the pages that are connected. So this is the page intro that Kenny's editing right now, and those are the pages that he authored when he outlined as intro being branched to. So for any answer choice on this page, for any answer that the student gives, he has the option of saying that answer should go to the page even, or that answer should go to the page odd. All right.
So I'm going to save this now. And this graph on the left will update. If you click on another node or something, it will update with the branch decision that you've made. So if a page branches to another page, you can see that this is green here, and the other ones are red. The red dashes means that you haven't actually configured the question for it to actually branch anywhere, and that's something you still have to do. But the green means that this is a valid branch between intro and odd, and intro and even, and you've authored it correctly.
Okay, and then after you author each page, usually it's a good idea for a little sanity check to make sure it works. So let's preview that page. Okay, so the audio is not playing for us. That's fine. Kenny hears it.
Yeah.
All right, and you can skip ahead, as the student might. They press the fast forward button. And now here are the two choices that Kenny just authored, one for even numbers and one for odd numbers. And I think my guess is if you press this, it'll break because it will take him to a page where the question hasn't been authored yet. Okay. All right, so the student, so Kenny, acting as the student, was previewing that page. He pressed even, and it tried taking him to the page even, but whoops, you can see the broken red arrow coming out of page even. He needs to author a question there, otherwise the page can't play properly. So let's author a few more questions, maybe?
Yeah. I'm going to do the next. I'm going to go over a different question type now. So multiple choice is often a common type of question that you'll answer. Another type of question that you may ask a student is essentially check all that apply, or what we call a checkbox question. So I know you guys can see this, but I'm going to select it from the list.
And I just want to say, multiple choice and checkbox they're very common. They have their place. The lessons that we've created are very math focused, as you might have noticed. And so we have all the questions that you've seen in our lessons, or just about all of them we have available for public use at this point, including numerical response, typing in algebraic expressions, and evaluating that correctly. You can read more about these different question types in the documentation that's in the top left of QuickBranch, the user manual that you see in the top left. But for now, we're just going over the basics, the multiple choice, the checkbox, and we'll look at maybe one or two more question types here. Okay, so let's proceed with a checkbox.
So with checkboxes, they're similar to multiple choice in the sense that it's still a drag and drop interface where you're going to be making effectively where the student can click on this on the ending screenshot of the video. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before, where I hold down Shift and I'm dragging boxes, and they are auto-sized to the content that they're trying to cover. You'll notice that we automatically try to create enough space for the checkbox to appear and have it not overlap the underlying content. So that's a kind of little, again, this is a shortcut that helps make it easier for the author to actually create these boxes that the student will be clicking on.
Before you do any of the question branching logic, why don't you also just move the submit button around?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, I guess that's all there is to that. But you can see these options on the right. There's question. We won't go into wrapper and links probably today, but we'll focus specifically on question editing. Wrapper is an advanced tool that you can use to branch between lessons, and if there's interest, we can talk about that later perhaps. So he's editing the question, and you'll see these options: create, select, and submit. So create is what he did first to make those 6 check boxes around all the different answers, and submit, as the name suggests, will allow you to move around the submit button. And the student, when they're asked a checkbox question, they choose the correct answers, and then they'll press the submit button. So the remaining thing to do is select.
So select basically allows you to now define how sets of answer choices map to a specific branching behavior. So these 6 boxes, the student may click on them in any number of combinations. And what the question that you're asking them here is which of these numbers are odd. So I can select the odd numbers and create what we call a choice set for them. And you can see it's 1, 3, 5 here. They map actually, it might be a little bit confusing because we're using numbers in both contexts. But they actually, this 1, 3, 5 maps to the white one in the gray circle. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yep, got it.
Yeah. So here what I'm saying is I want these 3 choices to map to this branching behavior. And I can select again to say that 1, 3, 5 is a correct answer, and to have it branch toward which is another page in this lesson. What's interesting about checkboxes is that you can also say, well, if the student, for example, clicks on 2, 4, 6, to specify entirely different branching behavior for that. And that's a way that you can kind of handle specific or common misconceptions that students may run into in the future. This is kind of a trivial example here, where the students are asking to be, you're asking the student to do something very simple. But if it's something more complicated, then you may want to handle specific sets of answers. And that's why there's more, you can add more than one.
One example for this, yeah, I mean, you mentioned the evens. I mean, this is a toy example from our intro lesson. But a common thing that might happen is students might answer 2 of the 3 choices and think, oh, I did, I'm ready to move on. And you might want to tell that student, well, you're on the right track, you know what you're doing, but look at the question carefully and select all the correct answers. So Kenny, why don't you actually, well, I mean, we don't really need to do this right now. We may not have time for it. But for example, you could also accept 1 and 5 without the number 3. Maybe they forgot that one and make that another choice. And 3 and 5 and 1 and 3. Any possibility that you want to author to or any specific answer combination that you want to give specific feedback to students giving that answer, you can add those as choice sets here and specify exactly which page to branch to. Some of them might branch to the same page, and some of them might go to different pages. It's completely up to you.
Yep. So I'm going to save this now, and I'm going to author the other page, which is the corresponding even numbers in the same way. So I'm going to select.
This is all designed to be as we've tried to make it as simple to use as possible, and we're always coming up with little improvements here. The hardest part is making the video or making the images and thinking about how the lesson should work. The actual creating of the lesson and controlling of the branching behavior, that's the part that actually winds up being the easiest to do. All right, go ahead.
Yep. So like before, I'm gonna now go into select mode because I've created my boxes. I'm gonna select the even numbers now. Create a choice set for them, and say that this time, if the student clicks on selects 246 and then hits submit, they should branch to the same point, same page as before. So both the odd and even pages are branching to Word in this particular lesson. So you can see the graph is updated. If we were to preview it from the beginning, then, and I skip to the end of the intro video, now if I click even, this will go to the next page. And you can see this was the page that I just authored, and it's asking you which of these numbers are even. You can click on 246, and I hit submit. It'll say good work, but I haven't authored the next page, so that's as far as we could get right now.
So Alexander McCoy asks, what would the feedback look like? Let's see. I guess I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Maybe this question was actually asked a little while ago. But the feedback that the student gets whenever they answer a question, if it's multiple choice, the immediate feedback that they get that's positive feedback would be it filling up with green, and negative feedback would say try again. But then maybe the most interesting feedback is when you add branching, a branch for that specific answer, take them to another page, and then give them even more specific feedback than just correct or incorrect.
Yeah. So in the context of I'll answer the Alex's question first. In the context of authoring a question, all the feedback type means is just a little text snippet that usually appears below the submit button that says good work, or in the case of no feedback, it just won't show anything. But in terms of more broader kind of feedback, when you're authoring a lesson, that's entirely up to the author. You can have it such that if the student clicks on a wrong answer, you direct them to along a branch to a page that has video and audio that specifically addresses the issue that they ran into or the misconception that they have. See another question too from Robert about Math Jacks. We actually support that for certain types of questions. With these type questions that you're authoring here, the multiple choice and checkbox questions, since all of the boxes are created on top of an image file, you would normally embed them into the video or the image that you're authoring on.
Right. So you're free to make an image or video that's as complex or as simple as you want. We have 3D animations on ours that are actually 3D video files or rendered video files, and then we just upload them as video, and then we can create choices and questions on top of that. So the questions are a layer on top. All right, another question. Or sorry, you're going to be authoring another question.
I muted myself. Okay, I'm unmuted. Yes, so now I'm going to author a third question type, what we call naming quiz questions. You can think of these as more like your traditional fill in the blank with arbitrary text. And this is more geared toward kind of asking a question and having the student type in a string or a sentence. We do have another question type that we call free response that's more geared toward numerical answers. But for the scope for this particular demo, I'm going to do naming quiz just because it's a little bit less math focused and more appropriate for any kind of topic. So I can edit the submit box for a naming quiz question. This is similar to the checkbox sort of interface, there's two modes here. When you're in submit mode, you can edit the submit box. The submit box for this question actually allows you to specify how wide the text input field for the student will be. So I can drag and resize using the corners how big I want this text box to be. Now, for this particular type of question, how it works is I'm going to create a box here. So this question is asking what shape is this? And you can imagine if the text box is down here, a student may answer, well, this shape is a circle. A student may answer it wrong and say something like this shape is a square. And you can create kind of multiple boxes for the student to have to answer. I don't know if I explained that the most clear way.
I'll jump in here. So this is maybe not the best example for this question type, but basically the student is free to enter a string, and we're going to accept the answer circle here. But you might have a question where you want them to say multiple things simultaneously. Like you might have an image of a circle and an image of a square and an image of a rectangle, and you'll ask them, what are these three shapes? In which case, circle, square, and rectangle, I think those are the three shapes I said, all get accepted as correct answers, and then a message pops up next to each one. Next to the circle, a message would pop up saying, that's right, this is the circle. Next to the square, when the student types in square, a message would pop up there, and then the same thing for the third shape. So this is an example just with one string to recognize, and that string is circle. And now Kenny's typed in here some keywords that get marked as correct. There is a spell check on this, so the student just has to get close enough to one of these variants. Circle, circular, ellipse, oval. You can imagine maybe a couple of more strings you might want to enter here. But this will probably capture just about all of the answers that students would give.
Yeah, that was a much better explanation. Thanks, Zach. Yeah, so for these kind of questions, the branching behavior doesn't map to a specific answer box. It's pretty much if the student answers all of the boxes correct, then they're allowed to move on. So I'm going to say here that this will branch to the done page. Then that means that if the student answers this question correctly, then they're done with this lesson. If I save this here.
All right, so now the lesson should be complete, right?
Yep. Yes. Let's see. I'm going to preview it from that particular page just so you guys can see what it looks like. So this is what I authored before. And I can type in circle here. It will be marked as correct. Just to let you see if I typed in square, what it will look like. It says try again. And that's what we mean by negative feedback. Well, if I were to type in circle, then it's a circle shows up, which is the answer that we wrote before.
Can you try that page one more time with a spelling error, just to make sure that that works?
Sure. See if I can do search that.
Yeah. Circle, okay. It's French.
Yeah. Great. So spelling errors, small spelling errors we do catch, and it'll be compared to your set of keywords to see if it's correct. So our lesson is all authored now. We can go through the entire thing. If I were to preview the entire lesson now, you can see I can go from this is the intro page. Before I clicked on even, I guess this time I'll click on odd. So you saw before when I clicked on even, it went to the even page. This time when I clicked on odd, it goes to the odd page and asks you the other question, which is which of these numbers are odd. If I answer this question correctly, I get to move on to the circle question that we authored. And if I answer that question correctly, that says well done. And that's pretty much the entire lesson that we've authored.
Okay, so Kenny, I think at this point I'm going to talk a little bit about what's possible. I mean, I'm just going to comment here that what you've shown, in my opinion, I've worked with this for quite a bit, as have you, But this is pretty simple, right? This is uploading assets and controlling the branching behavior between them. It's not the most complicated thing in the world. So I want to talk a little bit about it's simple yet powerful. So I want to show kind of briefly what it can look like as you're doing these things. Great. So I'm presenting now, and then I also want to talk a little bit about the analytics and something that we're working toward. So Kenny, I'm going to ask you to field questions now at this point, and I'm going to start a screen share over here. Okay, so I apologize for the infinite window. Okay, you able to see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, so this is just a quick example. This is from a lesson that we've created. There are a couple more features over here that we haven't made public yet for the public version. But this is an example of a lesson that's fairly linear, but has quite a bit of quite a few questions in it. I'm going to show another lesson, one of our early lessons on lines and rays from our geometry course, where you can actually see quite a fair bit of branching. And with each of these pages, like line names, for example, if I do the same thing and look at the question configuration, this is a let's see, this is a. Let me just look at this for a second. Choices. Hold on. Let's see. I'm having some trouble sharing this. Are you still able to see my screen, Kenny?
I can't see your screen.
You cannot?
Yeah.
Sorry, you can or you cannot?
Cannot.
Okay. All right. I'm having some issues here. Kenny, are you able to do the screen share then?
Sure. I can try. Give me a second.
Just to show maybe the lines raised lesson, what branching there looks like, and then kind of show a quick sneak at what the analytics look like.
So.
Well, that's the rate. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So make sure that you're the one presenting.
Because
Am I?
they have a specific rate.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
QuickBooks has the rates, correct?
I am now.
Okay, great. So look at the page lines names, for example, or line names up there. So this is a checkbox question. And go into the question configuration. Yeah, okay, so something's not right here. I'm only seeing one answer choice, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, but anyway, this is an example of a question though where depending on we found trends that some students answered. So a lot of students answered saying that A, C, and CA were the only two correct names for this line, and then we send those students down a different path. So if you can close this and go back to the menu here, or the lesson map, you can see that it branches to multiple different. This one branches to 4 different pages or 5 different pages, and so as you author your lessons, you'll find through student feedback as well as through analytics down the line exactly where students are getting questions wrong, what those wrong answers are, and you can create lessons that are more personalized so that different students start to follow different paths through the lesson depending on the answers that they give. So Kenny, why don't you show analytics dashboard for a second? This is something that we have, that we're working on, that we hope to make public to other authors in the future. So this on the left here, you see our lessons. This is our view of the analytics right now. And each of these circles represents one page within that lesson. So he's looking at the addition lesson right now, which has 1, 2, 3. Well, you see a whole bunch of circles there. And when he clicks on that, he's able to see the map of the lesson, similar to what he saw when he was authoring lessons. And then you can also dive into each page here and see exactly what the question was that you were asking, what the most common correct answers were. Often, you might set a range of correct answers, as well as what the most common incorrect answers are. And here it doesn't look so bad. It looks like students are getting this question right for the most part. Probably not a lot of work here. So we're not actually going to touch this question in this lesson. But we see, if you close this, if you just kind of scroll up and down on that left menu, you can see where we're having, that's a good example, dividing fractions. That's a tougher topic. And our lesson is pretty good on that, but as always, there's room for improvement. And you can see at that list of most frequent wrong answers, it looks like a lot of students are getting 1/12 for that for 4 divided by 1/3. They're flipping the wrong fraction there. So this is what we're working toward getting this. We're not quite sure of a timeline yet, but for now we put the authoring tools out there. So you are free to create these kinds of interactive and nonlinear lessons. And soon we hope to also get the analytics out to you so that you can then see exactly what the students are doing within these lessons and see exactly where you want to improve it. So that's something that we're working toward. For now, let's maybe take a look back at the demo lesson that you created, Kenny, and let's talk about publicly releasing that and making that available to students.
Sure, just give me a second. So stop screen sharing. Go back.
And in the meantime, I think Alexander McCoy had another question just relating to the feedback. Yes, so each of those different pages okay, sorry, the question's moving for me. So each of those different pages provides feedback based on the answer choices and then moves them back along the lesson track. Yeah, and depending on which page they're on, they may, it's not a linear sequence, right? It's not like they get feedback and then they move to the same next part of the lesson. They will answer the question, they'll get some feedback, and then they'll continue on the path that you have outlined in the lesson. So if somebody is on the page, sorry, Kenny, can you make sure that you're the one presenting? So if somebody were to answer if somebody were to answer the question on the odd page, they would get the feedback and then move along the path that's specified. So they'd go to the page called Word, and you can specify exactly which answers students give, send them to which pages. The feedback is just something that they get right before that transition occurs. I think that's kind of the question that you're asking. And then Elizabeth Raskin also asked, will the lessons we create be available for other teachers to use, download? And that's a perfect transition to what we're getting into right now. Okay, Kenny, take away publishing lessons.
Right, so we have a simple sharing interface right now. When you're ready to release your lesson to the public, you just check this release button. And I wouldn't worry about the public-private distinction right now. By default, the lessons that you create are publicly accessible once they're released. So if I save this, and then I click on Share Lesson, then I have a link here that I can use to visit. And I don't know if, did that follow? Yeah, did it follow? So I just popped in that link that was in the authoring interface into the URL as a URL into my browser, and this is a link that is publicly accessible. You can give it to your students, you can give it to other teachers. They'll all be able to access it. I think Elizabeth also asked whether they'll be able to download or edit it. There's no downloading or exporting feature right now that packages it, I guess, as for offline use. They are able to always visit it online through that URL that you provide. And as far as editing is concerned, right now we have it set up so that each author is responsible for their own lessons. But in the near future, we'll be adding the ability for users to collaborate on authoring.
And let me just quickly add a note also on the download. This is actually a question that we get a lot from our own students saying, hey, this is great. Can I download the lesson so I can view it offline? And the answer, at least for now and for the foreseeable future, is no. The whole advantage of creating lessons like this is that the different students follow different paths, right? It's a nonlinear sequence or a nonlinear path that they follow through the lesson. And so if you download it, you have to download the entire experience, right? So that's multiple video files. It's everything that plays the lessons. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this, more than just the videos and the questions, right? But if you publish it, you can access it through the URL. It's very easy to access online, despite the no download. Okay, so I think we've covered a bunch of things here. We've created a demo lesson. We talked about where you can do this in the first place. We gave a little hint about analytics and some of the later things coming down the road. If there are other question types that you're interested in, I suggest you check out the user manual. But Kenny, otherwise, I mean, anything else? I think at this point, maybe we can open it up to some more questions. We have a little more time here. I think we're maybe about 10 more minutes. We were planning to go to about 5 o'clock. So if anybody has any other lingering questions, we can answer those. But really, we're most curious to see what you can create. We're still discovering kind of new ways to deliver content and to create new paths through lessons all the time. And we're very curious to see, even within math or outside of math, what other authors are able to create. Kenny, anything that you want to add?
Yeah, just if you guys have suggestions on what kind of questions you'd like to author, if it's not already represented in our question type pool, you can definitely feel free to email us. And we're pretty happy to work with people to kind of add new question types. Most likely, if there's some need that isn't fulfilled by the existing types, other people have that need as well. So yeah, my addition to this is feel free to kind of email us at info@schoolyourself.org if you have suggestions or feedback.
Sounds good. All right, I'm not really seeing any other questions. So let's maybe stick around for another minute or two in case anybody has any last minute questions. Yeah. I'm just thinking now, we've actually added quite a few question types, right? We started out with something that was just multiple choice and checkbox and numerical response. And I think over time, we're trying to support more questions that are more open-ended, right? I mean, there's only so much there's only so much insight you can get from what a student knows or doesn't know by asking multiple choice questions. A great example is in our order of operations lessons, where we'll start off students saying, "Hey, try evaluating this," and depending on how they answer it, we'll send them down a different path within the lesson. A lot of students make the mistake of thinking themselves PEMDAS, right? Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, and that means addition comes before subtraction, which is not actually correct, right? And so we're able to take students who think that, who get the answer wrong in a specific way, and send them down a different path. Something that you might not be able to capture with multiple choice, but you can capture with something that's more open-ended. But yeah, please feel free to email us any questions. I see one question here. Does the student input allow for fractions? Kenny, what do you have to say on that?
Yeah, we actually can support symbolic expressions as well. Just for kind of ease right now, I'll only cover the numerical answer, which is what we call a free response question. So I'm gonna just edit this page that we had before that we were asking what shape is this. Instead of asking the student to enter in text, I'm gonna ask the student to enter in 3/4. So this particular part, this is much more well covered in the user manual, but I could basically say something like, I want the answer to match 3/4, or I want the answer to match 3/2, and say that if the student enters in 3/2, or not 3/2, 3/4 or 1/2, then to do this behavior. So I'm going to do this a little live. This part does look like a little bit of code, but it is explained in much more detail in the user manual. So I could say something like, the answer should equal 1/2 with some tolerance value. Okay, add it here, and we'll branch to done as before. So this time, if we preview it, and you don't see the box here anymore. We're not asking the other question type. I can type in 1/2 or 0.5, or I can also, if I were to preview it again and put in 1/2, this is also accepted. So,
So yeah, I just want to say here that so right now, numerical questions, except decimal fraction, we'll probably at some point be able to let you specify whether you would only accept the fraction form of the answer. I don't think that exists yet, but that's something that will be there at some point. And then also algebraic expressions are a very fun question. So you might ask a student. We have this actually. I would encourage you to check out maybe our multiplying binomials lessons on FOIL, first, outside, inside, last, or factoring polynomials. And we'll ask the student to factor a polynomial, and they have to actually answer the expression. There are multiple ways to do it, right? You could put the first binomial first or the second. There are different answers. They're all algebraically equivalent, even though they're written in different ways. And we support all of that, and that includes exponents. Writing polynomials, x to the third plus x squared. All of that supported by the algebraic expression type. So we can go into that maybe in more detail at a later time. Email us with questions as you're maybe figuring that out. But it is there in the user manual. Again, it's similar. It's you specify which expressions branch to which pages, and you're able to also include variables and functions that should be a part of their answer toolbox, basically, as they answer the question. Let's see. If there are no other questions, maybe we could show a quick demo of that. I mean, this is very math specific, right? But Kenny, could you try that out?
Sure. Algebraic expression.
So what you see here is now this numerical pad. Some students will enter answers on their keyboard, and other students who are using a mouse or a cursor can actually click on the buttons that you see, the numbers and the other tools for entering algebraic expressions. So at the top here, this is, again, you can read the user manual for more specifics on this, but you can specify which variables and functions the students might have access to on their numpad. And Kenny added a variable, that's the V, the radio button, that's a V there. And he says it should display X. And he's saying that the answer should be equal to X squared. And again, the same kind of, and you could say if they answer X cubed, go to this page. If they answer X squared minus X, go to this. Again, the same freedom to branch to different pages depending on the different answers that they give. Okay, so let's see what this looks like now.
Diverse.
And now it says answer, and when the student clicks on that, there you go. They get the same numerical pad that you saw in the preview. And Kenny, try answering, I don't know, X cubed. Okay. X squared plus 1 minus 1. Okay, so it recognizes that that's equivalent to the answer of X squared. So since we author math lessons ourselves, we've put a lot of work into making sure that the algebraic interface is pretty smooth for the student and forgiving when they answer different expressions that are the equivalent. So, okay, all right. I think it sounds like some people are thanking us and heading out. So yeah, I think at this point we'll wrap it up. Any other questions, email us at info@schoolyourself.org. We are very excited to see what it is that you create. So let us know. Share these lessons. Let us know. We'll hopefully be able to hear from you and see what it is that you're making. Let us know if it's in math or something outside of math, and look for the future for us then also allowing you to track student analytics and using that to improve the lesson. Very exciting. I think we're shifting from scalable online lessons that are very just straightforward video, watching Sal Khan or somebody just explain how to do a problem, to something that's much more interactive and engaging for the student, where they're also doing as well as watching. So exciting times ahead. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and maybe we'll do another one of these if there's interest. Again, reach out to us with any questions that you have.
Yep. Thanks, guys.